Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
911 here now. We're at King Soopers in South Boulder, Table Mesa. We've got injured parties on the ground. 911 now, people. If there's a shooter, active shooter somewhere in the store.
There's one in there. Down there.
Oh my God. Guys, we got people down inside King Soopers. Look, there's... Holy shit. Damn it.
The entire building is surrounded. You need to surrender. Come out with your hands up, unarmed. This is the Boulder Police Department.
Horrific. Officer Talley, first one of the police officers to respond, was killed. 10 people dead. Motive will be found out over the coming days. Here's why I don't speculate on this stuff, because we live in a world of lies. We live in a world of speculation. We live in a world where people are going to run out and they're going to essentially come up with all kinds of it was this, it was because of that, it was because of Trump, it was because of the vaccine, it was because I don't know. And eventually we'll figure it out. But this isn't that time. People are dead. How did it happen? Simple. Guy had the opportunity to walk into a place, and he took advantage of the fact that there was no security that you would think of. I mean, you're at a grocery store, for God's sakes. You're at a grocery store where some people there were going there to get their vaccines. And they were killed. That's what happened. They were killed. First officer to die in the line of duty since 1964. And like I say, the Officer Talley was the first one to respond. But you heard they were coming in droves, SWAT, you name it. They were all flying in there as fast as possible. Guy had an AR-15 style rifle. And already last night, the speculation of what the guy was about. I'm like, I don't deal in that. I don't. I don't want to deal in that stuff because it comes out eventually. But it's all about the political side of it. Was he a Trump supporter? Was he an anti-vaxxer? Was he a person that was? I mean, I don't care. What he did was horrific. Let's focus on the people that died, what took place, and go from there. This is Boulder Police Chief Maris Harold.
We know of 10 fatalities at the scene, including one of our Boulder PD officers by the name of Eric Talley, who's been on the Boulder Police Department since 2010. The heroic action of this officer when he responded to this scene, Officer Talley responded to the scene, was the first on the scene, and he was fatally shot.
So he's the first one there, fatally shot. They showed up in droves afterwards, and then it was like a standoff. People escaped out the back. Eventually, somebody was taken into custody, and you saw him walking out. Another horrific day. Another horrific day for no reason. People going to the store. I went to the store yesterday. Think about that for a second. You go to the store. And it's odd, too, because Denver is one of those kind of really hippy-dippy places, right? It's beautiful, kind of outdoorsy and stuff. And you've got all of these opportunities to do a lot of different things. A lot of people go there. The first ones, they had marijuana. They made it legal. And, the psychedelics. And it's kind of one of those places. But it's also one of those places that brings people who, they want to escape things. And it's a great place, and this is Boulder, just outside of Denver. It's not too far away. And I was telling, up until yesterday, the most famous thing coming out of Boulder was probably Mork from Mork and Mindy. I mean, it's a college town. Don't know why. Have no idea why. And the speculation will come. And what you do is you watch what takes place over the next 24 to 48 hours. Oh, we were on his social media, and it was this, and you find out that wasn't true. And and it was because of this, and we read them. Oh, it was because of this. And people are going to build up their bias. The reality is this shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have. It shouldn't have happened. What was he about? We'll find out. That takes a while to get there. That's not an overnight thing. But because we want to build narratives and stories, it'll be guns are bad, and this guy in some way, shape, or form supported some sort of party, had some sort of belief, whatever it was, and then boom. When we should focus on the victims, which is they're still trying to figure out.
Obviously, this is a very complex investigation. We have one suspect in custody. I want to reassure the community that they are safe and that we will try to do our best over the next few hours to identify the victims. And we'll be working with the coroner's office to do that as promptly as possible.
Police Chief Harold right there. And you could hear it. I mean, let's think about it. It's not Mayberry, but it's not one of those places you would think something like this would happen. Colorado has a weird kind of extraordinary record when it comes to mass shootings. You had the Aurora shooting, which is the theater shooting. Of course, you had Columbine, and now this. And this comes on the heels of what took place last week in Georgia. So another horrific day. And stuff will come out. But if you're serious about figuring out what it is, you take a deep breath, you let the dust settle. Because there will be politics played with this. Because as we all know, in the world of social media, politics, you put them together, it's an opportunity to make statements, to raise money, and to have sound bites. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Hope you are doing well. So yesterday I went and I got it, kids. I got a shot. You did it, Chad. Yes, I did. I went through the whole, I was telling producer Anthony. So producer Anthony and I, we were joking about, because we are now kindred spirits, because he also has Moderna. And I went and it was fairly easy procedure here in Arizona as of tomorrow. Anybody 16 or older, I think you can get, Pfizer or Moderna 16 or older, but 18 or older for the other one. And it's kind of wide open. It's like, woo, there you go. So I went yesterday, and it was fairly simple. Last week, went online, I think it was Thursday. And it was, or Friday, it was as simple as 5 minutes to find out exactly the place by me, signed up, because my county had opened up to any age. And within, I got a text message and an email, like after I'd signed up, hey, you're confirmed. Then Sunday, I got a text message saying, are you coming tomorrow? I said, yeah. Showed up yesterday, filled out one piece of paper, walked in, got my shot, sat there for like 15 minutes, and then walked out. It was that simple. It was. And no, I haven't grown a tail. I had so many people like, are you feeling anything? I'm like, did you wake up today and are you sore? Are you sick? I can't believe you bought it. It's just like, settle down. It's a vaccine. Well, they could shoot anything into you. They could. It's possible. It is. But the reality is, again, it's not, that's not it. I don't worry about those things. So many people do. I like, Chad, let me know. And I'm like, look, I'll let you know. Look, if this thing's bad, you guys are going to get the honest, straightforward answer from me. I wouldn't do this. All right. I got little ones. I love my life. I wouldn't put myself in a situation where I thought, oh, this is bad. No, it is one of those situations where I made a choice. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do for me, even though I'd already had it and survived it, even though I didn't know I had it. And they kept telling me, all right, well, you could have a real adverse effect because you already had it. So you've got antibodies. We're going to be giving you more antibodies, which is going to rev it up. But I was surprised how many people really came after me and attacked me. I was just laughing. I was like, my God, what's wrong with some people? Well, it's just simple. They're pissed and angry. And they, for whatever reason, this is the hill that they're standing on right now because they think some crazy thing's going to happen. I have no tail today. I didn't get a message from Bill Gates telling me I had to come farm on his land. I don't think there's satellites above me following just me. It's crazy, some of the stuff that people are telling me. And the DMs I get are just insane. But overall, I'm okay. Now, on the other side, you've got AstraZeneca. And they are asking questions today about AstraZeneca, which would have been the fourth one, that they had used outdated information, which is not good.
U.S. federal health officials saying results from a U.S. trial of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine may have used outdated information, which may impact the vaccine's reported efficiency. That data released Monday showed the vaccine is 79% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID-19 and 100% effective against severe disease and hospitalization. It was viewed as a reassuring development after a number of European countries temporarily suspended use of the vaccine over fears of blood clots before eventually resuming use of the shot.
So, outdated information. They're trying to get emergency authorization. We'll see if that happens. There's just, and it's at the point now where I've talked to a bunch of people who are all about getting the vaccine, but they all said, I don't know if I take it. And I'm like, because but that's because it's something you've heard. You don't know. And because we live in a world where you can take something, splash it across the interwebs, and within moments, it becomes a big deal without really knowing all of the information, because we're an emotional creature, and that's the way we react. I didn't have a chance to take it. I ended up getting Moderna. I was hoping for Johnson & Johnson, and I didn't think they had it. But apparently, if I would have went to the other place, which is further away from me, I could have got that, which I didn't think I could, because I heard it was only in the pharmacies and this not the county or state places. So far, though, I am less than 24 hours in, and I'm still alive. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at me, text the show. The other thing is like, oh, you're going to feel really sick, and your arm's going to really sick. I went out the minute I got home, and I went golfing. I would hit like 100 balls last night. I'm like, I'll be fine, right? I'll survive this. I will. We all will. It's just something you do, right? And you don't have to. I tell everybody, you don't have to do these things. If you don't want to, so many people out there are just like, it's like they're rooting. If you don't get it, they root for you to get sick. And if you do get it, the other side says, well, they root for you to somehow some sort of adverse affect or expect you to, become beholden to something. It's crazy. It's like we just can't root for us to win. No, because you got to be right rather than win. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Wounded Paw Project. Amazing things they do. They're looking for you to donate a vehicle if you could. They also accept cash. They're going to rescue dogs. They've been rescuing you dogs for years, saving them from essentially being put down, and then training them for our veterans, first responders, and their family, helping them out with all kinds of things, especially our veterans who come home and struggle with PTSD. It's a great opportunity for you to give a huge tax deduction, which is always a nice thing. Find out what you can do, how you can give to Wounded Paw Project by going to woundedpawproject.org, woundedpawproject.org. Take a look for yourself. As they always like to say, you'll be saving a paw to save a life. woundedpawproject.org. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
I was mostly focused on just making sure that he stayed as close to me as possible, and that he didn't stand up too far, because I just didn't want him to be too tall and become like a moving target.
Yeah, horrible. Sarah Mood Shadow right there was in the King. Is it Shopper? I think it's what it's called. I was going to say super, but I don't think it's a supermarket. It's a grocery store. And was close to where the gunman was. A lot of people go in there to get their vaccines. But what's the first thing that pops up online? First of all, it's the militia. Who is the guy? Everybody's searching. But one of the trending things is how he was treated comparatively to, how African Americans or people of color have been treated by the police. And you just sit there and you're like, this is everybody's always looking for something that they could bitch more about, that they can scream and yell more about, that they can whine more about, that they can, let's compare. Stop the comparison thing. Like, stop the comparison thing. I don't think there's anybody around that would like. Does anybody care if he would have been blasted by the cops? Trust me, I'm sure the cops would have liked to blast him. Killed one of their own, so they would love to have blasted him. But he came out. If that's the guy that we have seen on several occasions from video of him walking out. It was a horrible scene, and we'll find out more, but it's just like, do we always have to do this? Do we always have to go to the, hey, let me tell you something? This wasn't the same as this, and you're just like, stop it. It's just ridiculous. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Immigration still out there.
The White House says they're working as quickly as possible to move these kids into shelters and homes, calling in FEMA for help. But under fire from critics who say they didn't do enough to plan for the surge after overturning many of Trump's hardline immigration policies, the administration still refuses to call the situation a crisis.
Yeah, and we're battling over words. Issue, crisis, whatever you want to call it, right? Because that's what we've become. We've become a world of I'm going to push it this way, or I'm going to say this, or if I say that, it softens it, it makes it feel a little bit better. Abortion, pro-choice. I mean, it's just, we have an issue, all right? We have a humanitarian issue. Does that make you feel better? Does it make it feel less of a crisis? But if you say it's a crisis, the reality is, and this goes back to welcome to the world of politics, you're admitting that the crisis is because you are on watch right now. And so instead, you just ignore it. Talk more about immigration. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Still alive after my vaccine. Are you still alive, Chad? I'm a vaxhole. Somebody said, you're such a jerk, Chad. I can't believe you did this. I'm like, shut up. My goodness me. What is wrong with you people? But you don't even understand. Dude, you don't understand, Chad. You getting the vaccine is giving in to them. Of course it is. I'm going to wear 12 masks today. Now that I got my first shot, I'm going to wear 12 masks because I'm sure that's what Fauci would want me to do.
The number of cases in the country have plateaued. That's not good. They should keep going down and down. And they've plateaued at a level of about 53,000 cases a day.
Never good news. So what's it mean, Fauci?
We've seen this before. When you plateau like that, there really is a danger of a resurgence. We're actually seeing that in Europe.
Well, that's not the same. And I'll tell you why. Because Europe isn't vaccinating people the way we are. They're not. They're not getting it done. They are failing at the vaccination part. You have way too many chefs. And this is what happens when you have a union like this. And so we're a democratic republic. So what's that mean? So we're a democracy. And we're a democratic republic. We have 50 individual mini countries and the shell corporations of the United States of America. Think of it, if you want, as the NFL. So the NFL is the nonprofit. And underneath, you got all the other teams. But they run everything. They do. And kind of what goes on here is like that. Well, the difference is the European Union. So each state's able to do the things they want. It's not the same in Europe. So kind of everything goes through the European Union. As they all say, yeah, we can do this, or we'll sign off on this, it goes. Well, if you look, we're vaccinating a hell of a lot more people than they are at a much faster pace. They're just not. So as long as we're outdoing the vaccine's outdoing the virus, we're going to be fine. And yes, they've got T-cell immunity, which is people have been exposed, have some sort of exposure to it, to a point where it's like it felt like they may have contracted, but they haven't. You've got your T-cells have your. It's like, think of it as a protection shield, and it has memories, as well as all the people that have had it. We're going to be okay. We're going to come out of this thing faster. But you listen to him and a lot of these other doom people, it's just always, What did I say? Some states will get out quicker. Other states, it's going to take a while. Out here where I am, we vaccinated we've almost had 3 million vaccinations. So, 3 million people vaccinated. We're closing in on almost half the state. Well, of like 45% of the state is people under the age of like 18. So you're looking at a situation where it's like, isn't that the point? We're not going to get to those. That's going to take a while. And if you're telling us now, because I have a feeling and I'm waiting for that, and I want you guys to understand this, write this down. I'm waiting for the moment they say we're going to get to herd immunity when all of the children get vaccinated. I'm waiting for that moment. That's why we're going to recommend that even if you've been vaccinated, get triple vaccinated, get quadruple vaccinated, get quintuple vaccinated, wear 45 masks, stay indoors, and hide. That's what I'm waiting for. You know it's coming. I could just feel it. Unfortunately for the feds, the politics of the states has caused them to, even if they wanted to clamp down harder, to, for all intents and purposes, have no choice. Like Newsom has no choice now. He's facing a recall. People are over it. Businesses are smashed, and people are leaving California. But, well, some people are moving to California. Yeah, some people are, but the people that are leaving are taking with them far more tax revenue than a lot of people are coming. He has no choice. Cuomo, right now, he's probably going, we could go for another spike. He's probably thinking that. And then Florida, of course, is being Florida, which is just, well, it's Florida. What more do you want to say? Still out there partying, still out there enjoying themselves, and it's pretty simple. You got young kids with pent-up energy. As my buddy Broomhead said yesterday, he said, Chad, he goes, they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Of course, because they're young and they feel like they're invincible, and they've kind of been stuck places for the last year plus, and they're over it, and so they're letting their freak flag fly.
Large crowds, mostly from out of town, partying in the entertainment district with few masks in sight. The head of the CDC saying we are at a critical point in the pandemic.
We're so close to vaccinating so many more people. Now is not the time to travel.
State leaders taking swift action. In New Jersey, the governor pressing pause on the rollback announcement he gave just 4 days ago.
Yeah. Well, what'd you expect? Honestly. And I don't care about the young kid. They're the ones who are spreading it, but as long as the people that feel like they need to get vaccinated, that's all we can do. And I almost prefer it, like, for myself, like with Jack, my son, he's 10. I'm like, nothing's going to happen to him. Him building up immunity to something like this is probably better for him in the long run than the short run of getting a vaccination. And I think a lot of parents feel that way because we've dipped our children in Purell for so long that maybe it might not be the worst thing, especially when you look at the rates of serious infections and illnesses compared to things like the flu. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. You know what else makes me laugh? It's the people like, I can't believe those kids are partying like that. I'm like, really? Like, you weren't 21? You didn't want to do that? You didn't want to go to Mexico, or you didn't want to go to Miami, or you didn't want to take a cruise and party hard and feel like that you were invincible? Do you forget what it was like? Because when you're 16, 18, 22, you feel like you're on top of the world, like you can't be stopped. I mean, it's nuts. I can't believe they're doing it. Really? You idiots. Come on, you know you were doing the same thing. That's why I don't play that game. Even though I didn't party and drink, I would have still liked to travel and did things, and I would have felt invincible. Because when you're young, you do. That's part of being young. It is. You know that. Newt Gingrich.
Well, if it's just a lie. The southern border's not closed. They're not effectively stopping people. They're not testing anybody for COVID and then holding them if they have COVID. What you have is the equivalent of a popular invasion in which people are just migrating north. They come from all over the world. We now know there are people not just from Central America, but people from Africa, from China, who are showing up at our border on the south. And Biden has basically opened it up, and now they don't know what to do with it.
What do you say? There's all kinds of people. They're coming here from all kinds of countries, and they're going to... no, the border's not closed. I don't care what Biden says. The border's not closed. In saying that, is it a bunch of people from faraway lands that are coming here? You're going to get a few. I mean, we caught some in Yuma last month. I think somewhere from Iran and a few other places. And, yeah, you're going to get a few. Are they all necessary terrorists? Because that's kind of like the implication. They're all terrorists. No. I don't think that for a second. But we do have an issue. And the fact that he continues to just kind of go, it is amazing. It is. And this, though, what Newt says here is so spot on.
I actually think it's the woke white liberals who are the key to this. How could they not have known that if you communicate an open border, that you're eventually going to have several million people show up?
He's right. It's like, did you not know that? Of course. And the woke white liberal side of things, it's always that way. It's a great way for you to feel like I'm doing something and I have all this empathy and I want everybody to understand how much empathy I have. All the while you're saying you have all this empathy, you really aren't. You don't have any skin in the game, if you will. They're not coming to your house. They're not trying to take, come over here and compete with you when it comes to jobs and to other things like that. It's just a way to make you feel like you're doing something. We need to do something that's real. We need to, and we've said this for years, and we've said it ad nauseum, and it's never going to get fixed as long as there's money to be made at it. They're going to continue to play this game, and now you've got children coming here taking these treacherous journeys across far, 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 far away lands. Like they're going through, they're going from Honduras, El Salvador, right? Central America, Guatemala, and they're coming through Mexico, and they're walking hundreds and thousands of miles to get to the places they need to get to with people they've never met before, and it is crazy. And we're just like, oh, well, we've got an issue. It's not a crisis, though.
Children who are frightened and crying, overcrowded conditions. Now that the public has seen that, is that not a crisis? And what conditions or situation, what metrics would have to be in place for the administration to call it that?
Well, children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing prosecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis.
Well, first of all, why is a child fleeing prosecution? Because of the prosecution. Well, did they do something? Because if they did something, then I don't know if we really want to have them here, even if they are a child. And violence, yeah. They're fleeing violence in some of these places, especially places like El Salvador, where you've got, MS-13 that just kind of runs that country in ways that we don't understand. Corrupt governments. Of course, they're fleeing horrible things. But just because they're fleeing something doesn't mean that when it arrives here. So you've got a child coming here, a group of kids coming here, that them coming here doesn't make it a crisis. It does, Jen Psaki.
Look, I think our objective is to move. This is one of the reasons this is such a focus every single day for the president and this administration. We want to move these kids as quickly as possible through these facilities and into the shelters where there is safe spacing, and then move them into homes where there is safe spacing. And we are concerned about the public health impact. That's why we're putting in place a number of policies to expedite these processes.
Yeah. And stop blaming Trump. right? Stop blaming Trump. You can blame Trump for the way that it worked with him and the kids and the separation, but stop blaming Trump for this. This lies squarely on you. It does. This lies squarely on your administration at this moment. The overall blame, if there is to be, it lies squarely on career politicians who've done zero to address this and fix this in a real way. And that is, we're talking 3+ decades. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. Why isn't it a crisis? Because it's not. It hasn't risen to that level. Okay. But we saw it, and then you're like, oh, and Trump was doing it. It's like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Now it's like you guys are like, it's just summer camp. It's like Camp Crystal Lake. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Tweet at us. All right, home title lock. Cyber criminals are amazing. Do you know stealing things like your title is so easy? My uncle and I were talking about this yesterday. You know, we were talking about like passwords. It's a perfect example. I'm like, is your password hard or easy? Does it matter? I mean, they can get into anything they want at pretty much any time. So it's up to others to help protect us. And that's where Home Title Lock comes in. Home Title Lock will alert you when anything happens to your title, right? If somebody goes in there and they need to change something, any of the mortgage company, lending companies, that you'll be notified. If somebody's looking at your title and you have no idea who they are, well, then you'll know. Because right now, it's all public. It's easy to do. They take your title. They forge your signature. They act as if you sold them the home. Then, lo and behold, they take out hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans and own your house. Don't let that happen to you. Protect your home now with Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com. Register your address. See if you've already been a victim. Use code radio. 30 days free protection. That's HometitleLock.com. Code radio. HometitleLock.com. Code radio. Chad Benson Show.
To be free. I am not a terrorist. I am not Antifa. I am not a sex slave that wears masks.
Don't be a cutie pie.
Probably sit around and cook some soups and eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
You're running my life, bud!
Yeah, you haven't seen anything yet.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
The latest series for Disney Plus is another huge hit.
We need someone to inspire us again.
The streaming service says Marvel's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which debuted last Friday, had the most watched series premiere ever on Disney Plus during its opening weekend. Disney, the parent company of ABC News, didn't release actual numbers, but that means Falcon topped previous hits WandaVision and The Mandalorian. Episode 2 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be out this Friday.
Yeah, I've not seen it. I thought it was a movie. That's how much I don't have no idea. I'm like, it's not a movie. Now it's a series. What? Yeah, it's a series. I don't, just goes to show you. Like I tell everybody, if it ain't Gunsmoke or golf, chances are I probably haven't seen it. You mean you don't watch the news? No, I don't watch the news. In fact, I have golf on right now. There is a live golf tournament going on in Kenya right now, and I'm watching it. And it's the European Open. That is my day. I read a lot. I have several trusted places I go to filter out stuff that I know is baloney, and that's kind of what I do. But I will watch some shows. I watched Rick and Morty. Saw Rick and Morty Unseen last night. I do that. I'll watch some. Like, I can't wait to go back to. And I've already planned my first movie. Going back, gonna go see King Kong versus Godzilla. I'm super excited about that. Although this Friday, Nobody comes out, and I may go see that. And I don't know if it's actually in the theaters, because you don't know what's in the theaters anymore, what's streaming at home. And if you don't know what that is, it's a Bob Odenkirk movie. If you know who Bob Odenkirk is, he's a comic that is, he's an actor, but he's a writer. And he did, like, he's the dude from Breaking Bad spinoff, whatever that, Better Call Saul. He's doing a movie kind of like John Wick. And it looks really interesting. And he apparently trained like 4 years to do this kind of role. So he plays a badass. I'll go see that if that's in the theaters. But you just never know. You never know. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Good news if you're a little fluffy.
Well, forget about all those six-pack washboard abs. It's all about the dad bod now. A new dating website survey, they revealed that a vast majority of single women prefer men who, say, are on the fluffier side.
Come on.
So there's no need for you to worry about getting that bod ready for the summer. Yeah, the dad look is officially in.
That's called nature. Is what that's called. Nature. Right? Like there's something in our DNA and our nature that looks over and says, okay, that person looks big and looks strong and looks like, there's just something about that. Plus, it's also a competition thing. When a person's got six-pack abs, chances are they're working on that all day and they're doing that for a reason. It's the same thing in the other way around for the ladies. It's just, that's nature, kids. Dad bod's in. Yeah, baby. Because I'm a dad bod guy. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Need 911 here now. We're at King Soopers in South Boulder, Table Mesa. We've got injured parties on the ground. 911 now, people. If there's a shooter, active shooter somewhere in the store.
There's one in there. Down there.
Oh my God. Guys, we got people down inside King Soopers. Look, there's... Holy shit. Damn it.
The entire building is surrounded. You need to surrender. Come out with your hands up, unarmed. This is the Boulder Police Department.
As it happened yesterday, scary. 10 people dead, including an officer. Officer Talley shot dead. First one responding to the chaos at the King Super. Motive. Everybody, we always want to know what the motive is. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, that's human nature. Like, if you look, and part of it is because on the inside is like, could any one of us freak out? Of course, anybody probably could freak out. But we want to know in some bizarre, weird way, like, that really couldn't happen to me. That couldn't be me. And it's funny, the way that we want to break things down. And it's not always because we're some of it's the political nature. We want to know, okay, was this guy a Trump supporter? Because if he was, then his actions are not his own. They're obviously Trump. Was he an anti-vaxxer? This is a supermarket that was giving vaccines, where you could go, kind of had one of those little medical kind of places where they have like a nurse practitioner on call, like a health center. Was this just a random act by somebody who maybe had lost his mind? I mean, all of these things people ask, but it's the breaking things down is something we always try to do. If you ask anybody, like, so you go back and you're like, okay, the kids at Columbine, or the horrific shooting took place at the Parkland, right? And you start going and you're looking at all these things, but then you go to Vegas. It's still the one that nobody's ever solved. There was nothing. He left virtually no footprint on anything. There was no note. It was just, even the people that had dealt with him and ended up being punished as well because there was making him bullets and this, that, and the other, those people had no idea what he was doing. And we never know, which is just, it's we want to know so bad. Look, over the next coming 24, 48, 72 hours, things will still, be cloudy, but it'll start to become a little bit more clear. We don't know what the motive was last week. Everybody's like, well, it's a hate crime. Like, because he hated Asians. But his roommate and friend was like, no, it was because he was addicted to sex and he had issues and he felt guilty and awful and continued to frequent places. And as if it was, he was blaming them for his, and no, it had to be a hate crime. I said, well, he killed 3, white people or whatever. We're always looking for something. And now with politics the way it is, we're trying to fit things into a narrative, and it's not a good place to be. Is the best way to describe it. This is the Boulder Police Chief, Maris Harold, yesterday talking about what took place, including the death of one of their officers.
We know of 10 fatalities at the scene, including one of our Boulder PD officers by the name of Eric Talley, who's been on the Boulder Police Department since 2010. The heroic action of this officer when he responded to this scene, Officer Talley responded to the scene, was the first on the scene, and he was fatally shot.
First one there. And then it went fast. Everybody there. It's the first officer killed, I think, in the line of duty since 1964 in Boulder. So over the next few days, it'll come out more and more. They're looking at social media. Did he have a huge presence on social media? Is he a QAnon follower? Is he a Bernie follower? Is he an anti-vaxxer? They're going to break down every single thing, and it's not always cut and dry. And we want it fast. We live in a world of instantaneous news, we think, and we want it fast. Even though more often than not, as I've seen online, everybody's already had their minds made up. It's the gun's fault. This guy's a white supremacist. It's and you just sit there and you think that you're not interested in the truth. And because when you find out these things, could this thing have been prevented? Was this one of these people that was so quiet that nobody knew anything, not even his closest family and friends knew? He almost had 2 personas. You don't know because you made up your mind. Because we live in a world of tribalism, and because of that, we decide to run to an area where we feel like we've got a platform to stand on and attack or defend. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Top of all of that, you've got vaccines rolling out fast. You've got the usual stuff. Dr. Fauci coming out talking about essentially be ready for the evil that's going to happen because, well, he's Dr. Fauci. The guy never, ever seems to have anything nice to say. It's just never, there's never anything bouncy about it. You don't have to be, again, I'm never looking for somebody to be a cheerleader in a situation like this. But every once in a while, you got to start, you've got to stop ending stuff, but everything could go south.
The number of cases in the country have plateaued. That's not good. They should keep going down and down. And they've plateaued at a level of about 53,000 cases a day.
Okay, that's not good. It's always that's not good. It's always that. So what's that mean, Fauci? Tell me. I mean, is it going to get bad again?
We've seen this before. When you plateau like that, there really is a danger of a resurgence. We're actually seeing that in Europe.
No, what we're seeing in Europe is they're not vaccinating enough people. They're falling behind, so there's more people being infected than are being vaccinated. They're arguing amongst themselves. A lot of it has to do with things like AstraZeneca, which has been a battle. Is it good? is it bad? What kind of data they had? That's the new thing now, is the data itself wasn't right. And they say we may need 3, 4, or 5 vaccines to get this thing under control on a global scale. And we can be honest, we're amongst friends. We only care about us. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. Like, you don't want bad things to happen to people in India, Africa, Australia, the UK, Germany, wherever. You don't, but at the end of the day, it's like, I care about me. How are we doing? Well, we're doing good. Where we got it wrong was maybe the response, and because we turned it into politics, and it became a nightmare of a battle, and we cherish these things called freedoms, so people push back. Understandable. Where we're getting it right is the implementation of these things like the vaccine, rolling it out. I got my vaccine yesterday. Now, I've already had it, and we were just debating off the air, do I get a second shot or do I not? Because new studies are coming out that if you've had COVID, which I did, and then you get the vaccine, even one shot, versus somebody who didn't have COVID but got both vaccine, I actually have 500 times more antibodies. So I don't know if I'm, like invincible, but it's pretty awesome. I don't know if I am. But AstraZeneca is having serious issues. Now they're going, okay, hold on a second. Are you guys using bad info?
When AstraZeneca said its vaccine was 79% effective against COVID-19, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases said it was concerned the company relied on outdated information. Dr. Anthony Fauci told ABC News it was an unforced error.
This kind of thing does, as you say, do nothing but really cast some doubt about the vaccines and maybe contribute to the hesitancy.
Fauci said the AstraZeneca vaccine is likely very good. AstraZeneca said the data had a cutoff date of February 17th. The company will now review data from the last month to see if it makes any difference.
It probably won't. But why it matters for us is this is what we do. When people ask me, are you afraid to get it? Well, I went and got it yesterday. No, why? Because the lawyers signed off on it. And because the one thing that we do with the overregulation at times is we go hard at it. And Dr. Jen Ashton said yesterday, we are the gold standard for the world. If it gets by us, a lot of other places are going to kind of just usher it in rather than do several other things. When they look at it, they'll still look at it, but we are kind of like, you got through that? Wow. So this is probably going to take a little bit longer than I think they wanted to have it take. But still, when you think about it, think about how long it normally takes. It's up to 10 years before you get anything approved through, the FDA. And these things are being done in a year or less. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Your love, your hate. I got a lot of that yesterday because I went and got the vaccine. I was always surprised about how people just wish you ill will. It's I hope you, what? What do you hope happens to me? Honestly, what do you hope happens? Well, I hope you, no, tell me, what do you hope happens? Just curious. I mean, outside of my tale and the want to farm for Bill Gates, I'm totally fine. AMAC, Association Mature American Citizens, fastest growing over 50 organization in the country. Great organization. What do? They help you with everything you can think of. Whether you're looking for life insurance, health insurance, dental. Maybe you're getting ready to take Social Security or Medicare and you need questions about those things. They'll answer them, put you in the right direction. They've got retail, restaurant, travel, hotel discounts, you name it. They have got it all. Top of that, they're in D.C. They're fighting on your behalf for common sense immigration reform, protecting the First and Second Amendments, and so many other things. And you need a fighter in your corner. You do. Right now, they're taking on cancel culture head on, and I'm glad they are because more and more companies and people need to. Find out how you can become a member. It's like $16 a year. It is simple and easy. All you have to do is go to amac.us/chat. What? amac.us/chat. $16 a year. Join. That's pennies a day. You can totally afford that. amac.us/chat. Join today. Chad Benson Show.
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? All right, let's take a look. I'll give you one hint of what's trending. Yeah, the shooting yesterday is trending big time with Google. 5 million plus. Boulder, active shooter. From there, it's things like Deshaun Watson prominent Texas attorney clashes in case involving Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson. Several women have come out and said that he essentially wanted a massage and then sexually harassed them. We'll find out what that looks like. Is there going to be criminal charges? Don't know. Krispy Kreme, give free donuts to vaccinated customers every day for the rest of the year. Now, I love a donut, and so it would not be below me to go get one, but I don't think I am, because I don't even know where Krispy Kreme is around here, actually. Otherwise, I'd probably be all over it. William Shatner turned 90. A lot of people searched that yesterday. Like, 90? Looks pretty good for 90, right? Looked a little living hard when he was like 60, but looks good for 90 because he looks the exact same. Michigan basketball, they advanced to the Sweet 16. If you guys aren't following, the March Madness continues. And as bad as our producer Phil is doing, as he said, he is still in second place. One of his polls. For me, I'm going to be honest with you. Mine blew up early, but we're having a little resurgence late because I got most of the Sweet 16 right. And at the end of the day, I think that's good. At the end of the day, isn't that what it's about? It's about getting it right. I still have Gonzaga winning it all. I don't know why they wouldn't at this point. They're just... They haven't had any competition. That's their big issue. They take on Creighton next. Oregon and SC will battle each other. Arkansas, Oral Roberts. Baylor, Villanova. The other side, you got Michigan, LSU. Colorado, Florida State. UCLA will take on... you got Michigan taking on Florida State. UCLA taking on Bama. Syracuse, Houston. Loyola, Chicago, and Oregon State. So this should be fun. Liking myself a little bit of this. Head on over to Twitter. Lots of stuff to do with the shooting yesterday. Prince Harry takes a job as an executive at a Silicon Valley startup. We were talking, we're like, what? Like that? Yeah, that's trending. Matt Gaetz apparently lied about his son. Said his son was a college freshman, had no real graduation or prom, and blah, 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 blah. Said he let him go to Panama City Beach to have an abbreviated spring break. According to his son, Nestor, graduated in 2019 before COVID and didn't miss graduation or prom. He's actually, it's just so bizarre. It's just, the whole thing is weird. And they say, Nestor's not actually his son. It's just, all of it's an odd situation. It's just, it is. Apparently it was his ex-girlfriend, left him. It's just, but that's Matt Gaetz, man. He's out there all the time doing something and putting himself out there. I have met him on a few occasions, and we've done some stuff. And, yeah. If you were going to say what's white privilege, I'd say it's that guy. Then Ellen DeGeneres is trending because apparently she's getting her butt kicked. She's lost over 1 million viewers. And you're saying, well, is that a lot? Well, when you're getting 3 million viewers to 3.5 million viewers, and you lose a third of your audience, and a lot of people are saying it's based on what, the workplace. I tell you what a lot of it's based upon. Some of it might be that, but a lot of it's also based upon the fact that you're dealing with a beast now that you've never had to deal with before. And over the last year plus, it's exploded even more, and that's YouTube. People are bouncing and finding alternative viewing things that don't have the same metrics as the same kind of button-up traditional media. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I had to just talk myself down to be able to even tell her what happened. I couldn't tell her what happened until, 45 seconds a minute into the conversation where I would just be like, there was an active shooter.
Yeah. Somebody was in King Shopper yesterday in Boulder who got out alive. A lot of people headed. Once they heard the shooting, because sometimes is that a gunfire? Is that what exactly is that? Because you don't, you're doing stuff, you hear some, even some other people said you weren't quite sure, thought it was a backfire, but then you realized that it was gunfire, and then all of a sudden, some people head straight out through the back, like the loading docks. Other people got out in the front, but 10 people weren't so lucky. Shooter, or potentially the shooter, is in custody. They're still going through all of the things right now. And there's no information that's real. And the information that people are looking for is why did said person do this? We don't know why. That's the best that you can say. You don't know why. And to guess and to make it political and it doesn't take us but a second to make something political. We don't know. Over the coming days and weeks, more and more will come out. But the fight over, just know this, you're not changing anybody's mind on the internet. You're not. Because anybody who's willing to argue with you for hours and to turn it ugly, you're not changing somebody's mind. They're not interested in anything other than the belief system that they already have. And so don't waste your time. Unless you enjoy being a troll, then by all means. My uncle loves being a troll. He loves to troll. I keep telling him, dude, you need to troll on both sides. That's what we really need. We need a troll that trolls on both sides, right? Like a bi-troll. Somebody who's got two different accounts but pisses both sides off. That's a good idea. I'm going to work on that. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. COVID. I got my shot yesterday. Here's one thing, once again, we're not talking about when it comes to COVID. The vitamin D thing. Pretty simple to get vitamin D. Go outside in the sunshine. 4 out of 5 people that have gotten COVID have gotten extremely sick and or died were lacking vitamin D in a major way. The other thing, which people aren't talking about because, I don't know, maybe it's a politically correct thing, we don't hurt people's feelings, is the largeness of people. And the fact that it does have an absolute, real. I mean, we're talking about something that, when you look at these numbers, it has an absolute bearing on what takes place when it comes to COVID. And go look at how many people have been sick and extremely sick, and you find out that a lot of times obesity was there. And then you've had the pandemic, and people have gone both ways. I've, known some people to put on a few lbs, and I got a buddy here, Lloyd. He's got a compromised immune system. That's why one of the reasons I got the shot, I wear the mask all the time, even in settings where you think you really don't have to, because he works around us. He's got a compromised immune system, but he's not stopped working it. Over the last 12 months, he's lost 105 pounds, which is nuts. And he's done it simply by little fasting, right, here and there, and calories in, calories out, and he worked out. It was nothing. It wasn't crazy, but he lost a ton of weight.
Well, more than 60% of adults have reported undesired weight loss or weight gain since the start of the pandemic. 42% report gaining more weight than intended. On the other hand, 18% of Americans said they lost more weight than they wanted. Now, mentally and physically, the pandemic has impacted our lives. Doctors say staying home led more people to eat more. And stress, that can have a direct impact on undesired weight loss.
You lose your job, so you tend to buy cheap stuff, high-calorie food, snacks, chips.
Also, you tend to be bored, right? I mean, can we all talk about you get bored? So you sit at home and you're bored and you're like, I don't know what to do. So it leads to snacking. And from there, it gets worse. And then you're having more snacks and it gets worse. And you're having more snacks and you're not working out as much and the gym is closed and you got some more snacks. And it's easy. And then you throw in the stress and everything else. And the other side of things, I think people also took a hard look at themselves and said, you know what? I need to play more of a role in a positive way on my health. And people got fit. I lifted a lot more weights than I normally have. And it was, you know, I bulked up a decent amount. And it's been good. But I also, like, I get this, my little Fitbit thing. I get my weekly activity. And I was telling producer Anthony, you know, this year, because it was a perfect time for me to start golfing a lot more. Because normally I golf more in the spring and summer. But I golfed all year. And it was a perfect time for me to do that. And I had like 110,000 steps last week. But one of the things I was excited about, I had 20 hours of like activity time. Because I'm out trying to do stuff. And for all the time I work, these are the little things because I think people don't realize about taking care of yourself. And what the risk factor for obesity has been is huge. And it's all about body positivity. Look, you can be positive to a certain level, but you got to be honest as well. Right? You're like, I'm not JoJo the dog-faced, you know, boy, and I'm not super thin, right? And I need to lose some lbs. You get that's being somewhat positive. People are like, no, I'm fine at 300. No, you're not. And it's not healthy because one thing leads to another thing that leads to another thing that something like this comes along and you get sick and you pay the price.
Medical experts say obesity is a risk factor for COVID-19 itself, but staying home is increasing the obesity population, meaning the number of people at risk is increasing.
I mean, just keep yourself busy with something else. Staying home, I know you are home, but you can do things with your kids, with your family. You can go outside.
Yes. Just little things. I'm not here to preach. I mean, do what you want to do. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I enjoy myself. I'm not going to look. I'm 50 years old. I already did all the super uber fitness world. I like to keep myself in good shape, but I'm also going to enjoy my life. But I also think there comes a point in time where it's like, man, can we be honest about like some of this stuff? And people don't, you know, my uncle and I had a long, hard talk. I love my uncle. We're best friends. We're business partners. But first of all, we're family. And he and I had a very long talk about, you know, him getting fit because he was having some serious issues. And you've got to take it more seriously. But little things like this, when you go look around the world, it's not just here, by the way. It's the rest of the globe is having an issue with obesity and COVID. But obesity itself is an issue to yourself, to worker, you know, to your coworkers, to your business. Over time, you see what happens. Heart disease, diabetes, it's all there. And these are things that we can control. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Kamala Harris has come out, talked about the shooting yesterday.
It's tragic. 10 people were going about their day, living their lives, not bothering anybody. A police officer who was performing his duties and with great courage and heroism. 7 children, I understand. It's tragic.
Yeah. Tragic, to say the least. It's awful. More in the coming hours and days of what took place, and then the battle's already beginning with the NRA, with you know the who is this guy? He's a white guy. Why was he treated differently than somebody who was an African American? You're just like, we are so in a reactionary state when it comes to so much of this stuff, where it's like the first thing we have to do is find blame and go from there. And even if there isn't blame, right? Like even if we find out this guy was mentally had serious problems and that he stole the gun from somebody and all of those things, it still won't change because people are looking always to blame something else. And that's, I mean, last week I was watching Bill Maher and he was talking about like, hey, what if the shooting in Georgia wasn't a hate crime? This is actually a guy who had real issues. Nah, it's got to be a hate crime because he shot Asians. So it's just white people too. But what if it was just that? Like his roommate's like, no, he didn't hate anybody. He hated himself. And, what if it was? It can't be, because we want to find issues where we can blame somebody else for something in a crazy woke world, which is sad. Completely sad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. So, Rough Greens. I go home every night. See my dog Doodle. Drives me crazy. I love him to death, but man, he is, he can be just a crazy dog. It makes me laugh because he is a dog that a year ago we were really thinking about putting down. And now he runs around like the puppies. He jumps up and down. He would go over to the couch and he would kind of look up at you and say, all right, I got to pick you up. But then you want to touch him because he would bite you. Now, a year on, he's bouncy. He's happy. And all we did was change his little routine by giving him Canine Vitasmart. We sprinkle it on top of his food. Boom. He starts eating it up. We're like, okay, we'll see how this goes. 2 weeks later, better. Like you couldn't believe, like noticeably better. Here we are a year later, and he's like the puppies. He's healthy. He's happy. His arthritic hips, his fatty tumors, there's no effect anymore, and it is great. Vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9, all of these great things are in there. It's not dog food. You just sprinkle it on top of your dog's food. Here's the great thing. They want you to try it before you buy it at Rough Greens. All you have to do is go to roughgreens.com/Chad, ruffgreens.com/Chad. You pay for shipping, they're going to give you a free bag. Try it yourself. Put them to the test. Call 833-MyDog77, 833-MyDog77, or roughgreens.com/Chad to get your free bags of Canine Vitasmart. Rough Greens to make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Once upon a time.
Cardi B again making chart history. Her single Up, #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. Her second solo #1, making her the first female rapper with 2 solo Hot 100 #1. And it's her 5th #1 solo, or with another act, also the most among all female rappers.
Yeah, I don't have a #1 yet. But one day, my female rap game will explode, and you guys can't stop me. It's not there yet, though. I'm still practicing. There's a perfect example of chaos. We're canceling, and I saw Candace Owen talk about this. We're canceling, Dr. Seuss, and as they say, we're not, but it's not canceling him, but getting rid of some of these things, and the way that we go about, like Cardi B and all of these artists are up there and they're doing their thing, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, how do we get here? How is this somehow cool? But over here, that's evil and racist, and you're like, no, it goes back to the fact that there's no nuance, there's no context of anything. We just go, and we can't ever agree on anything. That's fine because you take control. She's about power, and this is evil and bad, and you're just like, okay, I can't. How do you stop that? You don't. Even this week, Bill Maher was joking about like some of the lunacy that Turner Classic now has done with their movies. And even now, when I watch some of my cowboy shows, it comes on and it talks about all of the, the injustice and all of, and I'm just like, look, it was the 50s. All right. We've moved on since then. I'm old enough to understand that, but apparently nobody else is.
The Turner Classics, they're the movie. I like Turner Classics. Okay. But, of course, in this new era, they had to reframe the classics. So they have to have a guy come on at the beginning and give a little speech about why movies that you used to just enjoy, because you understood that times change, people change, and mores change. It's called evolution, but now it's called problematic. Gone with the Wind is on the list. Breakfast at Tiffany's. My Fair Lady. My Fair Lady is too rough for them. It was too corny for me when I was 10. My father wanted me to go see it. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's how silly it is. But totally fine, WAP and all that stuff, which I don't look great. Fantastic. I got zero problems with any of that stuff. Let it all go. But as adults, I think we change, we evolve, things change and evolve, and we're trying to hold people responsible in which the time they live with in today's world, and it just is stupid. The retro rage is nuts.
But those aren't just the only movies. Would you like to see some of the other ones that they have to give warnings to now? I don't think these really need warnings, but they have it. Sleeping Beauty, a prince kisses an unconscious woman without consent. The Wizard of Oz, a powerful woman of color is murdered by a rural white girl. Psycho inaccurately portrays the lives of the vast majority of transgender motel owners. Rosemary's Baby fails to present Planned Parenthood as a viable option. Jaws portrays white people as victims. Wrong.
Oh, it's kind of funny though, because the people that were eating were white, because that's what that was about. For those of you who don't know, it is funny. It's sad but funny. It's very sad. That's why we have to have things like that. And I was watching something yesterday. It was Jesselneck and Nick Kroll. If you guys don't know who he is. Those are comics. If you saw them, you go, oh, I recognize them. And they were doing stuff for Comedy Central. And they were going, oh, this is stuff they did years ago. And he was talking about Jesselneck. They were doing a skit about a baby that was in a dryer, because apparently that happened. And Jesselneck's got very dark humor if you don't know anything about him. But Comedy Central told him, oh, at the end of it, you have to have a disclaimer that says this is not an actual baby in the dryer. And so he wrote a disclaimer that said, this is actually not a baby in the dryer, because Comedy Central is making me do that because you guys are blankety blank stupid. So that's why I have to put it. And then they came down and said, well, you shouldn't put that. Well, no, you shouldn't have to. Right? Like, if I'm watching a show, do I need somebody to tell me the context of the time and the era and that this isn't really like this? Like, I wouldn't think so, but you have to now. You have to. I mean, there's a new show coming out that it's called The United States of Al, about a person who's from Afghanistan.
I want to see everything. Washington, D.C., Las Vegas. And what's the name of that place that sells peanut butter and brings it to you on a forklift?
Costco. The whole time I served in Afghanistan, Al was my interpreter.
Daddy! Do you know that your Uncle Al is your godfather?
Which some might say is even more important than an actual father.
No one says that.
How could you not tell me you were having marriage problems? I could have fixed it.
From Afghanistan?
It's not the moon. We have Wi-Fi. Thank you for welcoming me into your home.
Already getting pushback because he's not actually an Afghan. Can't even start a show without trying to stop a show based on the fact that we feel that this isn't right. And you wonder why, people. You wonder why. Especially people on the right are like, this is insane. Left, you better speak up. You better do it. And you better do it quick. Because you're next. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Our hearts go out to all the victims killed during this senseless act of violence. We are committed with state, local, and federal authorities for a thorough investigation, and will bring justice to each of these families.
Chief Maris Harold, Boulder PD, talking about what took place yesterday. They worked overnight. Governor Polis talking about it as well, and obviously extremely upset when you think about this and who perpetrated this and why.
We will hold the evildoer responsible to the full extent of the law for his actions, and we will always remember the victims.
I'll say his name once, is what they're saying. They've identified him as Ahmad Alissa. See, he's 21 years old. No motives at this moment in time. Everybody will read into it. They'll hear the name Ahmad, think automatically he is he's a sympathizer with ISIS. Look, you don't know. And I don't play the game of super speculation. You can look out there and you can give an opinion, but for something like this, it's tough. What took place yesterday was awful, and it was horrible, and it was in real time, and much like everything else now, so much of this stuff is caught in some way, shape, or form on some sort of film or a live stream, and some of this was caught yesterday on a little bit of both.
Need 911 here now. We're at King Soopers in South Boulder, Table Mesa. We've got injured parties on the ground. 911 now, people. If there's a shooter, active shooter somewhere in the store.
There's one in there. Down there.
Oh, my God. Guys, we got people down inside King Soopers. Look, there's... Holy damn it.
The entire building is surrounded. You need to surrender. Come out with your hands up, unarmed. This is the Boulder Police Department.
Yeah. It's funny, Brian Suits, who, if you don't know who he is, he's a good dude. I think he has Dark Secret Places is the name of his show he does, and he fills in a lot across the country in places like KFI and L.A. He tweeted out, last week, gunman's ethnicity is a motive. This week, gunman's ethnicity and name is irrelevant. But it just shows you the politics of it all. The politics of where we are. The minute this happened yesterday, what did every journalist do? You run to find out the ethnicity. Not how many people he killed or if it was a her, which it wasn't going to be, but still, I mean, there's always a chance because you want to have the narrative put out there. And that's sad. 10 people lost their lives, including an officer who was the first one to respond. And because of the politics of this tribal world we live in now, it's more important to have an angle to come out rather than deal with whatever it is that they have to deal with the people. They can say my hearts and minds and all that stuff, but why will come later. But it's too hard to pass up because in front of you is the opportunity to politic. In front of you is the opportunity to go out and to say, we should take away all the guns, or this is why we need more guns, or this is what it's about being a white person. Why didn't they shoot him like they would somebody who was African American? And it's just like you just sit there and you're like, my God, it's like this is why we can't have nice things, and it's frustrating. It is. I mean, look at all the stuff that we go through now with this damn virus. Look at all the stuff we go through with this virus. Look at the battle we've had over everything from masking to no masking to how dare you be 6 feet apart when you should be 12, or why maybe you should be 3 feet apart. Well, it's all a lie, or it's frustrating. It is. And I don't expect people to be perfect. Because God knows I am far from it. I'm super flawed. I'm okay with that. I understand that. I'm not perfect. But I tell you what, it is frustrating. I'm just over because nobody seems to be solution based anymore. Nobody seems to be, hey, what's the solution to this problem? How do we talk this problem through? How do we try to get through this situation and avoid it? Whether it's immigration, something as tragic as yesterday and as awful as yesterday or last week, or the pandemic itself, rather than trying to, how do we come together and sort this thing out? Because the powers that be enjoy the fact that there is conflict, because through conflict comes more power and more money. And that's sad. It really is. We've got to do better. And part of that is just by no longer paying attention to places that you go and you want to have stuff affirmed. It's good to have your beliefs, but know that they're also interested in juicing things up a bit. And that they have skin in the game that helps if we are at each other's throats more often than not. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Case in point, it's a perfect example. It's immigration. Right? Like immigration's a perfect place where you come out and you go on Fox or you go on MSNBC and you paint pictures and you tell stories. Because remember, everything is about a story. How good do you tell the story? Even if the story doesn't have truth or it has just a smidge of truth, but it's about the storytelling. The actual truth itself doesn't matter.
Well, if it's just a lie. The southern border is not closed. They're not effectively stopping people. They're not testing anybody for COVID and then holding them if they have COVID. What you have is the equivalent of a popular invasion in which people are just migrating north. They come from all over the world. We now know there are people not just from Central America, but people from Africa, from China, who are showing up at our border on the south. And Biden has basically opened it up, and now they don't know what to do with it.
Oh, from all over. Well, you tell the story because it wrangles up the crowd. How, yeah, wrangles us. Wah. Are there people coming here? Yes. There are people that are desperate they're coming here. Are there people that are trying to get here from other countries? And some may have bad intentions. It's a possibility. 100%. Not saying that. But how you get your message across nowadays is by saying some of the most absurd stuff you possibly can. You don't really have to back it up with anything until the time comes where somebody finally calls you out on it. I couldn't even imagine sending my son. First of all, my son Jack, God bless him. He's a bit of a wuss. It's not the most adventurous. He is adventurous, but still, it's that kind of like push it off a little bit, like he'll do it, but like his 8 friends, we all got to kind of do it together. Like, where I was the exact opposite. I'm like, screw it. Let's do some stuff. I couldn't imagine sending him hundreds of miles on his own. Couldn't even imagine how bad that would be. But on the same side of things, while you paint that picture, yes, guess what, people on the left? There are people that would like to do us harm. There are people that would love to use the system that's very easy to get themselves in here. There are systems out there that they look at and laugh at because they know because of our empathy, especially with the change in the White House, that they're willing kind of just to turn a blind eye to things. Both can be a little bit right and a little bit wrong. It's nuts.
I actually think it's the woke white liberals who are the key to this. How could they not have known that if you communicate an open border, that you're eventually going to have several million people show up?
Did he communicate an open border? Kind of, not really. It was one of those implied things like don't come here, but if you do, great. But if you don't, that's also good. But really don't. And it's not open, but yeah, don't come just yet. I mean, if you say don't come just yet, I feel like saying just come eventually. But the politics are there. And what do? You know how many emails? I got 2 emails yesterday about this. Will I donate to a campaign? Will I donate? And I laugh. But there's the other side of things as well, which is what? The fact that when there were kids in quote-unquote cages at the border, it was essentially like Dachau and Auschwitz is the way that the left and the media painted it. But here, it's like, nothing to see here.
Children who are frightened and crying, overcrowded conditions. Now that the public has seen that, is that not a crisis? And what conditions or situation, what metrics would have to be in place for the administration to call it that?
Well, children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing prosecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis.
Yeah, actually, it is a crisis in the areas which there are. Is it a national crisis? Well, no, that national crisis has been taking, that's a 35 years in the making. But is this currently a crisis at the border? Yeah, that is. Call it what you want, right? Whatever makes you feel better, Jen Psaki, but that is especially on the border because they're not equipped at this moment in time to handle a lot of what's happening. This is Mayor Bruno Lenzano, who is from Del Rio, right there, right? He's a Democratic mayor. He's upset with what's going on because if you're not there, you don't get it.
Mr. President, my name is Bruno Lozano, Mayor of the City of Del Rio, Texas, and I am pleading and requesting with you to please put a halt to any measures regarding the release of immigrants awaiting court dates into the City of Del Rio and surrounding areas. We do not have the resources available to house and accommodate these migrants within our community. I will have no choice but to use the extreme measure under the emergency declaration as the mayor to refuse the entry of migrants awaiting court dates into the City of Del Rio. If you do send these individuals into our community, we will be forced to make a decision to leave them without resources under these dire circumstances.
They don't have it. They're still having issues with power. They're still, because of that huge cold snap, they just don't have the resources. Phoenix here, we're pretty big. 5th largest city in America. We don't have the resources right now. There is a lot of issues. And it is a crisis. Again, in the border states and in these cities, it's a crisis. The crisis has been 35 years in the making. And there is no sign it's going to let up. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program, Car Shield. Great deals at Car Shield. Plans start as low as $99 a month. You don't want to be somewhere, your car breaks down. You're like, oh, God, what do I do? And you start thinking to yourself, so if I got to pay this much, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, and I don't want to pay. And then if I don't, then I'm going to have to go buy a new car, and I don't want a payment. That's why Car Shield's great. Right? They can plan start as low as $9 a month. And you can tailor-made your plan for yourself, which is what you want to do. So I tell people, go call Car Shield, 800-665-2157. Use code Benson, save 10%. Tell them exactly what it is that you're looking for. The thing you worry about most in the cars is it your electronics, is it your engine. Get that covered. Don't cover the electronics if you don't have any and your engine goes out and you're like, oh, no, they wouldn't cover. And vice versa. It's that simple. Call them today. You get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. The shop is the shop that you choose. They get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. You can check it out online as well at carshield.com, carshield.com. Use that code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
The cost of the two-part plan on infrastructure and domestic priorities could be as much as $3 trillion. It could be paid for partly by tax hikes on corporations and the wealthy. Mr. Biden indicated that in his campaign promises. Many Republicans oppose tax increases, and moderate Democrats say the plan should try to get Republican support. Two other sources say talks are still going on, and the price tag could change.
Yeah. So infrastructure, education, break it down in two different packages. But at the end of the day, this new thing he wants to roll out, like we always hear about infrastructure. Always. Like, now we're going to throw in education. And I look around and I say to myself, where are we getting all this money? We're in the midst of something that is, quite frankly, still costing us trillions of dollars. We haven't spent all of the trillions of dollars yet. Yet, I say yet because you never know when we will spend it. But I also have a feeling they come back for more. And what kind of take away the stock market for a second, because the stock market is very top heavy. It is driven by several companies, not a healthy, broad look at things. What's Main Street like? What's a lot of that like right now? And you want to go out and you're saying to yourself, well, these are some of the promises I made. I get that, but we're also in a different time. And you want to go out and you want to roll out this infrastructure and education plan that's going to cost us an absolute ton of money. You're going to get pushback, and rightly so.
It's all under this umbrella of the president's Build Back Better program, which you might remember he discussed on the campaign trail to rebuild after this pandemic. And because the size and the scope of this plan will be historic, administration officials are expected to divide the proposal into two separate bills. And sources are telling us they're insisting that we're in the early stages of this plan, which will face fierce opposition among Republicans on Capitol Hill.
How much taxes? What are you going to do tax-wise? You can't, I think it was, you're not going to tax your way out of a situation like this when it comes to a recession. And it's weird kind of recession that we're in, because for some people, life has gone on pretty normal outside of not being able to maybe go to restaurants and do a few things. But their earning side of things has been pretty good, if not better. Other people have suffered tremendously. And then there's a lot of people that are in the middle, and it kind of depends on the time of the pandemic. You had a few months where you did okay, some other months where you struggled. But to say that you're going to throw this out there on top of all of the other spending, how much more tax? What's it really look like? What's the chance of this thing really getting there? And I know a lot of it's about optics. What do I look like doing it? We tried to do everything. It failed. It wasn't our fault because of this. But I think you're also looking at a situation where maybe you need to think about revisiting these kind of things. Infrastructure sounds great. Should have maybe included in the last one and took out a lot of the other crap that was in there. And I think people would have been like, oh, that's a lot of money, but okay. But you're coming back to the well again. This well's running dry. And when you start printing money and doing certain things, it's going to get really weird. Jamie Metzel's going to join us straight ahead. Wait till you hear this. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Talking to Jamie Metzel. He's a consultant with the World Health Organization. He's a writer, Hacking Darwin, Genetic Engineering and Future of Humanity. And he's also an advisor with the World Health Organization. And Jamie, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it, because I read as much as I could get through what you put out there was about 3 weeks ago, that it kind of really splashed, and then you went on Rogan and it exploded, where you were calling for China to kind of, hey, let's have a real investigation that went on at Wuhan and the lab there before, so we can figure out where this thing came from.
Yeah, so Chad, first, thanks so much. Really happy to be here with you. And it's actually been a year now that I've been making this case. But luckily, and I'm very pleased that in these last couple of months, what I've been saying for a year about that we need to ask some really tough questions about where COVID may come from, we're starting to get a lot more attention. So maybe if you don't mind, can I just take you back to last year and why I was
let's do it.
Really suspicious? Yeah. So in the earliest days of the pandemic, I started hearing about this outbreak in the market in Wuhan. And I'd just been in Wuhan in China not long before then. And so average person in the United States is saying, wow, it's these guys, they have all these yokels with a wet market and all these people are eating bats for dinner. But I know Wuhan is a really sophisticated, wealthy, highly educated city. It's China's Chicago. And I knew that we were talking about a bat coronavirus from horseshoe bats. And those bats are in the south of China, 1,000 miles away from Wuhan. So what they don't have in Wuhan in the middle of winter is bats flying around. What they do have is China's only level 4 virology institute, with the world's largest collection of bat coronaviruses, that's doing highly controversial gain-of-function research on these viruses. And so I thought, geez, well, maybe there's some crazy stuff happening with bats and intermediate animal hosts, or maybe we just use basic logic to say, well, there's this lab here doing this work. It has a spotty safety record. We know this virus emerges out in the world totally ready for showtime with humans. And that seemed really suspicious. So I built my website on my website, jamiemetzel.com. I started compiling the evidence, and it just got more and more overwhelming. And so last year I started writing articles. I had a piece in the Wall Street Journal. I was doing interviews. But I was labeled a conspiracy theorist because there was a whole campaign to try to underplay the possibility of a lab leak. And this year, that story is starting to emerge, and I'm really pleased we're getting the level of attention that we are.
Yeah, and last year, Jamie, it was politics. But politics here became it became crazy because you couldn't ask questions about where this comes. And we need to know where this thing came from because that'll help us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the tragedy of how this happened, last year. There were some people like me and small number of others who were saying, hey, let's get to the right answer. Then there was President Trump, and some people liked him, some people didn't like him. But the fact that he was so clearly blaming China and the World Health Organization, both of which were, there's a lot to point fingers at, but as a way of not pointing fingers at ourselves, and people didn't want to get caught up in that in that politics. So there was like all of this stupid stuff that was preventing people from just saying, hey, what's the right answer? Let's just look at the evidence and just be honest about what went wrong, what went wrong in China, what went wrong here. And I'm hoping that we can do a better job of having that conversation now.
Talking to Jamie Matzel. He's a consultant with the World Health Organization. He's a writer, Hacking Darwin, Genetic Engineering and Future of Humanity. Look, you go to Asia. You've got degrees about Asia, like the geopolitical side of Asian society and how all this stuff works. Yeah. And I never thought it was nefarious. I always thought Barney Fife let this thing out and China's covering this thing up. And we could have put an end to this thing a lot earlier. But China is about protecting China. They don't care about anything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tragedy. Let's just say that my hypothesis is right. Let's just say that this pandemic comes from an accidental lab leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I mean, that's really terrible, but countries make mistakes, terrible mistakes. And I was working in the White House and we accidentally bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. We've had companies like Union Carbide that have terrible accidents. But what is unforgivable, if that story is correct, and even if it's not correct, to have such a massive cover-up for a year where China has very actively tried to prevent any kind of basic examination of what happened. And I think a lot of people are dead unnecessarily because of that.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. And again, when I started researching a lot of what you put out there, was it Rat G something or other, like 12 or the miners went and they kind of got sick, and lo and behold, this stuff ends up in Wuhan?
So it's a really important story, and that's why I'm really happy to talk to you, Chad, because I think it's complicated stuff, but at its core, it can be made simple. Here's the basic story. In 2012, miners in southern China, like I was mentioning, the tropical parts of China where these pathogenic outbreaks tend to start, they went into an abandoned copper mine that had become full of bats, and their job was to clean out the bat manure. 6 of these miners went in. They all got terribly sick with what we now know are exactly COVID-19-like symptoms. 3 of them died. Then the following year, a team, including people from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, went to that cave, that abandoned mine, and they collected tons of samples of all kinds of viruses, and they brought those viruses back to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. When SARS-CoV-2 came out, it quickly became clear that the closest known genetic relative to SARS-CoV-2 is, as you mentioned, the RATG13 virus. And they had already published the genome of that virus, which is why we were able to know that. But at the same time, in the earliest days of the outbreak, the entire database, which had been password protected, available online, of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, disappeared. So we know they have a collection of these viruses. We know the closest known relative to SARS-CoV-2 in this lab, but they're not saying what else is in their collection. That's the tragedy.
I saw the World Health Organization in China did their sit down about it didn't come from the lab, and we're still looking. You could almost look at times like some of those spokespeople from the World Health Organization like it was a proof of life video, because you could tell like we're not really buying this, and you guys are controlling the whole thing. And then the guy that runs the WHO came out and said, yeah, we're not leaving anything off the table. But it's hard if you're the World Health Organization, because it's kind of like the NFL. You're run by the teams. You just happen to be an organization.
Right. No, that's exactly the perfect analogy. So the World Health Organization, which I fully support. I mean, we need a World Health Organization now. I mean, we're seeing why. But they're in a tough position because they are governed by the member states. And yet now they're being asked to investigate one of the member states, which is why the way that it's set up, this team, it's an independent advisory committee to the World Health Organization, not technically the World Health Organization itself. And this report, so this press conference and the report that's coming in a week or so is a report of this independent committee and the Chinese government. So there's no way it will be a credible report. There's no way that it will really ask the tough questions about how COVID-19 began. And there's no way that it will seriously consider the possibility, and it's still a possibility, even though I think it's quite likely, that all of this started from an accidental lab leak.
We should have done a better job. Like you talk about Taiwan. Taiwan virtually had none of this stuff, and they probably knew things were going on a little bit earlier than us and kind of what to expect, but they locked down rather quickly, and stuff was going on in Wuhan, and we kind of knew that. Pompeo brought stuff up before he left. There is responsibility that we failed here too, and part of that is our system. It's, we're a republic. We got 50 different little countries that are operating and fighting, and politics gets in the way. But the other side of it is if this was true, everybody would have to hold China responsible for what they did.
Both of those statements are totally true. We monumentally screwed up in this country. It's not just the Trump administration, although the Trump administration played a big role in it. Administrations of both parties for decades have been decimating our public health infrastructure, our CDC, Centers for Disease Control. They dropped the ball. There are so many failures on so many levels, but you're absolutely right. 10 people have died so far in Taiwan from COVID-19, and we're over 500,000 here in the United States. Having said that, nobody would have died if there wasn't a pandemic in the first place. And so, as I said earlier, whatever the origin story of the outbreak, and whether it was a jump through animal hosts, intermediate hosts in the wild, which I think is unlikely but possible, or an accidental lab leak, which I think is probable but not proven, whatever the case, we know that especially in the first month, what did the Chinese do? They silenced the whistleblowers. They kept the World Health Organization inspectors out. They immediately started destroying samples, eliminating databases. They imprisoned journalists who asked tough questions. And from then until now, they have a universal gag order on scientists, making it illegal for them to say anything public or publish anything without approval on the origins of the pandemic. So there are many people who are today dead because of the behavior of the Chinese government. Many people are also dead because of the behavior of the American government.
All right, Jamie, where do we go from here? Obviously, China is not going to ever be an open society. Like you say, you could walk through Tiananmen Square anywhere and see Chairman Mao. The Great Leap Forward killed almost 50 million people, and yet he still celebrated. So the chances of us finding out the truth, but how do we go from here to figure out how we can fix this thing? Because we still need to figure out where it came from. Do we just take a leap?
So there's two pieces of this. One is how to best understand where this comes from. And we at least shouldn't be doing the Chinese Communist Party's job for it. We need to be articulating, well, what does a full investigation look like? What are the records, the samples, the personnel that we need to have access to in order to crack this case. And I think it's fully crackable if we had that access. So our starting point shouldn't be, well, what will China do? It's here we have 2.5 million people are dead. Billions of people's lives are disrupted. We demand to have this kind of information. And if China wants to say screw you to the rest of the world, it has that right, but we shouldn't make it easy on them. We also need to have a full investigation with all of the resources that we have. I mean, I'm part of a group of academics and scholars and other experts who for months have been meeting virtually, and we're always presenting data to each other, challenging each other, so there's information to be had. Obviously, it would be better to have a full investigation. But we also need to ask some bigger structural questions. What went wrong here? We talked about the World Health Organization. Why is it that the World Health Organization isn't allowed to have its own global surveillance system? Why is it that they didn't have the authority to send emergency responders to Wuhan on day one? And even though they wanted to send them, they couldn't get visas to enter into China, and there was nothing they could do. Why is it that we have so many poor people around the world who are doubly exposed to the risks of this pandemic when it's fully avoidable? So I think we need to get to the bottom of how this started and our failures, and then we need to look structurally at the world of how can we build a safer future, because this is not the last pandemic. There could easily be a pandemic worse than this in the not-too-distant future unless we fix the problems that we have.
Absolutely. Jamie Metzl, I'd love to do it again because I want to find out what exactly is a futurist. That's just the coolest thing ever. And I also want to find out, because you were on Rogan, you said chocolate could be good for you. And I'm like, I like chocolate.
Oh, my God. Yes. Well, then you're in. And if you like chocolate, as long as it's dark chocolate, count me in to come back.
Oh, you're the man. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on. I love having you on, and it was awesome. Your book, everybody, grab all those books. You got a lot of cool stuff. Hacking Darwin, Genetic Engineering and the Future of Humanity. Jamie Metzl, thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Chad. Bye.
That was awesome. That was real. It's also scary, but I think a lot of what we couldn't talk about last year because, politics. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
You can take oregano oil. You can dilute 10 drops of oregano oil and drink that over the course of the morning and do that 10 days in a row, and your COVID symptoms will be gone. Now, if you're
I think that's total bullshit.
I honestly don't care what you think. I don't think you've done your research.
Do you understand how Dunning-Kruger works?
I don't understand how anything you refer to even makes any sense, brother. What is that?
Dunning-Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger, what is that?
So like the stupidest people in the room think they're the smartest.
Is your name Dunning-Kruger? Like, what are you going to come out with next? Occam's razor? The simplest explanation is that I'm an idiot?
Yeah. How's that? What if it's true? If you believe it to be true, then maybe it is true when it comes to the placebo effect and your mind and body. There you go. But listening to you, and it's much longer, that cut, and I will go with maybe. Maybe the loudest in the room might not be the sharpest tool in that shed. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. Finding out more about the shooter from yesterday. 21-year-old, looks like of Syrian descent. Does it make a difference? Well, it depends if you're in the media, it does. But the MO seems to be kind of antisocial. Not a shocker. But we'll know more. And you're going to hear stuff today where people are going to come out and go, he's obviously an extreme Muslim terrorist. And you'll other stories say that now he could be a hard right individual. That this will take days, and you're going to hear a lot of different things. And it's too often that this stuff goes sideways and this game gets played where it shouldn't be. But with the world of politics, what else do you expect? I expect nothing less from our politicians and the people out there that live in the Twitter sphere to run with this for their own benefits. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Check us out. Grab the podcast as well. Jimmy Metzel, that was great having him on. We're going to have him on again later on down the road. He'll tell us about chocolate and why it's good for you, but just dark chocolate. You guys have a great rest of your day. Guess what? It's Tuesday. Some tacos. Night-night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.